Did anybody have any comments from us on the task force before we turn it over to staff? Oh, he's on the phone. Okay. I think I would like to say something. I received some communication from our resident here, that is in addition to what we have here on the dais about the council, and I've read this, just kind of following the issue online, that the council was considering a levy. And that I think has been, from what I've seen, people got that impression from media. And so I just wanted to clarify for anyone watching or that will watch later or watching now, that that is not in front of the council. That was, I think, a suggestion, at least to my knowledge, that was put in front of the task force from staff.
Right.
So I just want to be just make it crystal clear that that is not something that the council has in front of them, nor is that anything that they have talked about considering. So I just felt the need, based on some communication and feedback that I personally have received, to clear that misinformation, make sure we get that misinformation cleared up. So with that being said, I will turn it over to City Manager Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Yeah, that's totally fair. That was something in doing this exercise that we put out there, but it was never something asked of by council or what I thought I would do is go over the items that you requested staff follow up on and to lead the conversation today, and then we can talk about what's next. So happy to report that we got together right after the last meeting, got some really good data, working together with the police department. And so that allowed us to analyze the our calls for service and to do some additional modeling options. So there's a couple questions that we were asked to specifically follow up on, and then some follow-up questions that I got from the task force review of the printed materials between the time we let them out and questions back to me. So I'll share those out with everyone. It was asked to us last time what the we refer to often as DUI, the driving under the influence of intoxicants. And so the slide here shows you the numbers. Not a great variance, although you can kind of see the effect probably COVID had, but mostly between 100 and 120 each year, dipping down during COVID. I guess people stayed at home and drank that are going on
That currently in 2024.
there. Yes, that's a outlier. You also asked to break out the pie chart that we had into all the other items. Now, in the caveat that these are NIBRS, the National Incident-Based Reporting System. So these are just criminal offenses. This doesn't include traffic and local ordinances. I'll show you that a little bit later, but just I think it's important to note that our officers aren't spending 31% of their time on shoplifting, because the number one in terms of the mode, the most frequently occurring stops are traffic offenses. So, but when we're talking about criminal offenses, this is how it breaks down. And all these charts were added to the update, staff, or the updated analysis and staffing overview. So this is probably a little bit better snapshot of our police incidents. In there, you can see traffic stops account for 34.8% of the documented incidents.
Very. And that's on page 19, if anyone's following along. In the report.
Page 19. Yep. Thank you. The next highest being citizen contacts, welfare checks, trespasses, and assisting their agencies.
Mr. Rock,
Mhm.
we could have examples of what a citizen contact might be.
Thank you for the question. I could probably answer that. A citizen contact would be someone asking a question, whether it be some type of legal question. It could go, oh man, what would a good example of citizen contact? Someone calls in saying, I have a question about whether or not my friend has a warrant. That would be a citizen contact. It's anything, it's not gonna, it's kind of a very broad category for anything that's not really categorized by criminal offense or that could turn into anything. It's really hard to capture. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, we get those all the time. Someone comes to the front counter and says, hey, can you come look at my car to see if it's registered properly? We'll walk outside, we deal with that person, we talk to them. It's a citizen contact. Someone calls in a concern about their neighbor that maybe is just kind of random. We call that a citizen contact, where we make contact with a citizen and it doesn't turn into anything. We just dark other, yes, it really is a broad category of capturing other related stuff that we get called for.
Thank you. I think that was important to clarify that it's
Yeah.
just contact time
Yes.
spent that doesn't turn into anything. So, okay, thank you.
Yeah, 10%, almost 11%. Okay, so our call mapping is the next area. We're able to get this data from the police department and then throw it into our geographic information system. And there was some observations from our GIS analyst using spatial analysis. One, first of all, you can note the calls are pretty equally spread throughout the entire city. He noted there really wasn't many cold spots in the city. There are some hot spots and they are focused around primarily commercial or main arterial roads. Some of those will recognize by their position on the map. And then the next way to map that is through a heat map. And we had one yellow spot, which is at River Road and Dearborn Avenue. And so I looked into that. Councilor Duran asked a good follow-up question. So I dug into that a little bit. Found there's a lot of businesses there that are tied together, and they all have a relatively high call volume. You have John's Chinese, the Whorehouse, the McDonald's, Sherwin-Williams across the street, the Taco Bell on the south side of that intersection, and a lot of smaller even businesses. And the calls were trespasses, alarms, thefts, disturbances. I don't know if you classify that maybe as nuisance calls on the most, but I was able to search under each of those businesses and they all had a fair number of calls in those 2 blocks on both sides of Dearborn, right on the river. In addition to that, there was also 84 traffic stops just at that intersection or closest to that intersection that it was named. So That's why the yellows, the heat map show there. The other places you can see are commercial areas where our shopping centers are. You can see down there by Mart and the area across the street between Cherry and River Road. You can see the Safeway, the Schoolhouse Square, all those kind of lumped together. The Weirmark and the small shops on that side, and then Kaiser Station. There were a lot of calls that we get at our own city parks. So there at Kaiser Rapids Park, there's a significant number of calls. But again, there's you go back to the hotspot analysis, there really was not, our calls are spread out relatively evenly throughout the community. Yeah, so there's a little bit more analysis, a little bit more text on that River Road and Dearborn. A lot of businesses with road frontage. High call volume, again, nuisance activities. So I looked at the top, actually is over any entity or business unit that had calls more than 50 calls per year for 2024, and then for 2025. A lot of them were the convenience stores that showed up on there. And then, of course, our big box stores, probably by sheer volume. And I think that also applies somewhat to our fast food restaurants. All the fast food restaurants have a lot of calls, but the busier ones are going to have more calls than the ones that are a little slower than that.
I'm not sure if this is gonna go to you, Mr. Ron, or perhaps Chief, but it was curious to me the businesses that would show up in one year and not another. So for example, 2025, the US Market in Kaiser on Cherry Avenue Northeast isn't listed in 2024. Subway on 3034 River Road North is in 2024, but not in 2025. And there were just, In-N-Out, Chick-fil-A listed in 2025, along with all the 7-Elevens. Those three, or I shouldn't say all, but those three 7-Elevens, but none of those were in 2024. Is there? I mean, that just seems odd to me.
This is a great question, Council President Starr. It is odd to me that actually 7-Eleven didn't make the list in 2024, because it seems like we're there quite a bit. But those, I couldn't tell you. Some of the issues are management. When you're looking at kind of like that famous footwear, it depends on who's running the store and what their criteria is for calling the police on certain things.
Yeah.
And also relationships. I know that when our crew team was active, it probably going back to 23, before 23, 22. We had a really good relationship with them, so they'd call any suspicious activity, they would call it, when someone goes to walk out the door, if they can report that. But a lot of those are just dependent on who's in the area at the time, and then how freely they are to call the police for assistance. So a lot of those are going to be, I mean, you'll look at some of these, especially in 25. Those are obviously some of your very frequent places that people go, but a lot of shoplifts. And then the 7-Elevens is open 24 hours a day, so that's, you're gonna get a lot of trespasses there and shoplifts, a lot of beer runs from that.
But they didn't hit the 50.
It actually surprises me that they did not.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we're there all the time. So it's probably like 49, 48, 47.
It is, yeah, it's just from that, setting that demarcation of that 50 of them, they're just below that. And there's not, it wasn't any science to the 50 either. It was like, okay, that's good. So,
Thank you.
yeah. I think it's also, to build on what the chief said, it's important to note the policies around the commercial businesses largely dictate how many calls we get. So the chief's probably more aware of these than I am, but some of the stores have, their loss prevention strategy is not to do any, have to have any strategy. Some, like Target do, have loss prevention officers that call on us frequently, as can be seen in this, chart, almost, one a day at least. Whereas there might be a lot more activity at other stores, but they don't want to call it in. And we also don't want to use this data to discourage them from calling in too. So,
Before we go on, Counselor Kohler, just a reminder that if you have a question, interrupt, or speak out, because we are seeing the slideshow on the screen, and so I can't see if you're using your raise your hand.
Okay, copy that.
Yep, thank you. I just wanna check my math if I can, rough math. But if we had, I believe what I wrote down, and just a note, to make sure we get this corrected in the next version of the report. On page 9, we still didn't have the 2025 call data updated. But I wrote down from our last meeting that we had 20,400 calls. So just flag that to get that updated, but I believe based on the paragraph that you have on page, at the top of page 23, where you say almost 4,000 calls came from commercial establishments in 2025, that my rough math calculator on my iPhone said that was like 19.6%.
yeah.
I'm just checking.
1 in 5.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mhm. Okay, so I've kind of, in this next slide, which is on, let's see, it's on page 22 of the report. It moved away from terms that might be well known to law enforcement, to maybe something that was more understandable to, let's see, what does Counselor Christopher say, the basic citizen or basic person. So I pulled out all that I could find from traffic stops, which I just call street stops, that could include a lot of traffic things. I tried to pull those out. Like I told you, there was a lot of park calls at our parks, 1,151 calls at city parks. Pulled out mutual aid, and then pulled out the commercial activity, which was pretty easy to do because the police are good at putting the establishments at most of the calls. And then when the first time we did the heat map, we showed a really big yellow spot at City Hall. And we said, well, what's that about? And the reason that showed up is because we take in a lot of calls at the police department and then they go out. So the incoming calls look like it was really bad at City Hall, but not. So I pulled those out, and then that kind of left me with, and I pulled churches, government stuff, and schools out. And then all the apartment or townhome, kind of the high density housing was labeled this complex, this neighborhood. And so I was able to parse that out. And then what's left there is what I labeled as the low density housing versus high density housing. Now, I probably could have spent many more hours looking at this and cleaning this data, but I think it's good enough to make some points for us that you'll see. One, let's see, the very next slide is we tend to think that, I should say, I was surprised. I thought that high density households units would have more calls per unit, but this shows we had 4,611 that would be under some type of complex, high density complex. And there was 2,600 calls, sorry, 4,600 units that would be apartments or townhomes that generated 2,600 calls. So you had a little over 2 calls, or a little under 2 calls. Or
Where's that table in the report?
it is. Actually, this one is new. The data is in here, and this came from a follow-up from Counselor Duran.
Okay.
So we'll add it to the report. The data is in here, but you'd have to jump about 60 pages to put the two and two together.
And then just to clarify, the introductory paragraph on page 22 of the report says that this data particularly from the previous slide, and then I think maybe this current slide says 40,000 lines of data between 2024 and 25. So is this 2 years worth of data?
Yeah.
So maybe when we are finalizing the report, can we clarify that at the table that it is 2 years?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. So the calls on what we would probably consider to be a single family home, although that line is pretty obscured in Oregon because of middle housing. But we have basically 1.15 calls for every house or in those low density households versus 0.57 for every unit in these high density households. And I think the way I explained that in my mind is we have a building that has 8 units in it. You have one problem tenant that you see all the time, you may think, gosh, the police are here all the time, but that's 1 unit out of 8 versus.
And if that 8 units, that's considered high density?
Yeah, it was really, yeah. And there's like a lot of. Spent hours and hours more with this data, but that could have been row houses, apartment buildings.
What about duplexes? Are those considered low density or high density?
Those were probably going to be in the low density. Yeah. Yeah. So that was very surprising. And again, that was thanks for Counselor Duran for asking that follow-up question. Okay, so we put some modeling out there based on ESUs, and you guys asked the question like, well, where are the ESUs? And what do different businesses look like with ESUs? So we have one single family residential is always assumed to be one ESU, so 10,717 single family residentials. Also multifamily per unit, those are the number of complexes in the 280 complexes, but 4,600 units of in the multifamily. So but you can see how the commercial breaks down. We've got 323 commercial units that are in the 1 to 9 range, 10 to 50 in the 91, and then 12 in the more than 50. Yes. That's why it's.
An example of a 1 to 9 ESU would be Dairy Queen. I'm just trying to get size.
Yeah. Why don't you give them kind of some examples of each? This was some good follow-up questions I had with Counselor Kohler over the phone. So I talked to Tim and kind of came up with some examples.
Sure. So First Tech Credit Union, that's about 8 ESUs. Correct.
And 8 ESUs.
Correct. So say Taco Bell is 10 ESUs. The fire district is about 20 ESUs. In and out in their parking lot area is 23. When you get to the 50 range, Winco is 50 ESUs. And at the largest place that we have is Lowe's at 159 ESUs. Oh yeah, we do have churches. Most of those are in the 10 to 50 ESU range. Let's see,
Churches are 10 to 50,
correct.
and they have the fee on their water bill as well, correct?
That is correct.
So, is government listed, is it gonna be a separate number, or is it gonna fit into the commercial? Like the fire district, and things like that, is that?
We can go either way.
I just wanted to put the.
So right now, they're paying the same rate as residential. Right, right,
And multifamily is this,
correct.
what, do you know what the history of the reason behind the multifamily was? From what I remember, it was because of vacancy rate.
That's correct, yes.
We don't have technically a vacancy rate anymore, right? Like, if I remember correctly, if it was below, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but if it was below 4%, that's considered a 0% vacancy. I mean, I remember there's some data point.
Yeah, I think from what I've used over the years, 5% is considered a healthy market. Anything lower than that is basically, it's hard to find stuff. It's hard to find something that's not available, it's not in the market. So even at 5%, you're talking 2 weeks on the market, only 2 weeks been on the market. And yeah, I think we have, we could certainly say if we have less than that 2 weeks inventory on the market.
So what is ours?
We have not asked that. We'd have to go around and ask probably realtors or property managers what their current vacancy rate is.
Is there any other reason behind that discount? Just vacancy rate?
That's correct, just vacancy.
No.
No.
Anything, is there any other discounts that we're looking at?
We do have the low income discount available, and that's still an option in the scenarios that we're presenting.
And that's these one.
Correct.
So in the line on the bottom, it says discount. There's 279 units or households that are receiving the discount.
Mr. Jacob, did you have a question?
We just don't know what PSU is.
Oh, okay. So the question for those who might be listening or following along at home, which is great, I think we got a high level primer last meeting, but it's equivalent service unit. That is as much as I know. And so I'll kick it over to Mr. Wood to continue explaining what
Sure.
that is and how it works.
So this comes from our stormwater utility. And the concept is 1 ESU is the equivalent of a single family residence. And it's based off of the impervious surface, but it's just kind of a rough calculation. We use that measurement of basically one single family residence when we go out and look at, say, a business and say, oh, Target, you have 150 ESUs. So you could say you could fit 150 single family houses on that lot in their parking lot.
Is it okay to go back for another question?
Absolutely, Counselor Fuller. In fact, if
Thank you,
anybody has
Matt.
a question, just ask.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Multi-family per unit, you list 4611. Is that taken into account any of the current under construction? Or is that, where does that number end? Is it that have occupancy certificates now, or is that anticipating any new ones?
That does not anticipate any new ones, so that would be as of December 31st, 2025.
So those with occupancy permits.
Okay, so we have a whole bunch of apartments either in construction or on the plans. How is that going to affect this number?
So they would be added as they come online each year, 2026, so whatever units are finished. Would be added in the next year, we'd see in the next year's data.
And
And
hotels?
hotels are gonna probably fall in that more than 50.
No,
Yes, yes, he was having thing.
Don't even figure out how to make that work.
A lot of
Yeah,
water in those.
And then also, just for a little bit more explanation, the ESU is just trying to make it's the closest thing we have to drawing a relationship to calls for service and size. So because, I mean, we can make the case if it's based on pavement and roofs. Largely our police activity follows that also, pavement and roofs, so it's not a exact. Science is not exact comparison, but it's best we have. For versus if we wanted to, charge per call, figure out how many residents, how many homes that receive the call and then do them exactly, but.
Just a clarifying question. Like when we were looking at that hotspot map, right, and you were talking about kind of what everything that's around there. If there's like a building that has multiple businesses in it, does that get figured based off of each individual business? Or is it like, so when I'm looking at commercial, is it each individual business is figured as an ESU? Or is it the size of and totality of the buildings?
So the heat map was made off of the call volumes that are assigned to an
Right.
address.
Cause you talked about there was, like where the poorhouse, or John's Chinese,
They're all
and right,
close together.
those are all there in one building.
Yeah.
Or, right, one, is that then each business as a commercial business would be one ESU, or is it figured on the totality of the building?
That is probably gonna. Tim might correct me here, but that's probably based on ownership, lease versus ownership, but. How would that be?
yeah, I believe it should be by door front. So if there's 4 businesses in one complex, they should be paying for 4 units. Within that. However, if you compare their ESUs, it's gonna be significantly more than 4 units for some of those businesses. So I'm not sure if that's answering the question yet.
No, so.
So, yeah, I think I get it, so let's just say that one building. Where the poorhouse is, there's, I think, 3 businesses in that. In that building, so if we. Put it on the water bill, each one of those do they each have a water? Service, or is it? If the building owner is just gonna get charged for 3 separate, or is he just gonna get charged? The number for 139 units, because that's all the side of the building. And the parking.
Right, that's an excellent question, actually. That's a good question, and it really depends on the complex. So in some areas of town, each individual unit within a complex will have their own water meter. And if that's the case, then each of those individual business owners will be paying a fee, the current fee as it is. If it's owned by one person who has the water entirely in their name, that person who owns the property will be paying for 4 businesses for each of the door fronts at that property.
So there is a way to bill them each business, not, what if they only have one water meter, but there's 4 businesses?
Correct, we can do multiple.
So we can catch that. I was just trying to think of, I also know that if you look at county records. One building may have, one tax record for the building, but then there's also county, taxes for each business because of they have to pay taxes on their property. The business tax, so, I just, do we have access to be able to, look inside and other?
We do have access and we are doing it currently both ways.
Okay. So,
Another question would be, what about a nonprofit business? Are we going to treat them differently than we would a for-profit business?
That would be a policy question. Currently, we do treat the nonprofits similar to other commercial entities.
Yeah, that's,
yeah, because
They're a business.
they have the potential for calls, just like everybody else.
Yes, we did.
so, and that was a good question, Counselor Kohler posed to me, as a follow-up to him preparing for the meeting. About churches and nonprofits, and that is somewhere where if you wanted to exercise some flexibility, the fee route gives you that opportunity. If you didn't want to hit a church that has a large parking lot and large roof, with that may be upwards of close to 50 ESUs, you could make an exemption or make a discount or something like that, or so.
Do we have we kind of gone through and looked at what the count is, I mean, you must have, because you've got 11 different for each rate model. Is there a big jump in the quantity of resident or units from 10 to 15, 50 plus? One of the businesses, the properties.
Sure, that's good question. So in the 50 plus ESUs, we have about 12 properties. In the 10 to 50 ESUs, there's 91 properties. When I say properties, I mean accounts, so. And then in the 1 to 9 ESUs, there's 323.
I want to make sure I'm reading this chart correctly, or are we not?
The models?
Yeah.
They are next.
Okay.
If you would mind explaining?
Yeah. I just wanted to. Before we start into those charts, I think I will ask a question because I think it will help me understand what I'm looking at. So for example, in that first chart, we're still on, for those that might be following along at home, we're on page 76 at the middle chart is where I'm asking my question. When we look at, in the commercial column, the 1 to 9 ESU, is that $20 per ESU, or is that a $20 fee for the month
That is per ESU.
per ESU? Thank you. And so if it's 50 plus ESUs, it would be $25 per ESU.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Can you clarify that again, what you just said, Mr. Wood?
Absolutely. In the charts on page 76, where we're breaking down various fee scenarios, the ESU or the per monthly fee in the chart is per ESU. So if a business has 10 ESUs, they would be charged $22.50 per ESU. So $22.50 times 10.
And so if my notes, okay, perfect, thank you. That's good.
So are you ready for us to kind of explain these, Jamal? So Tim came up with at your request to come up with some tiered models, two different scenarios.
Sure. Thank you, Adam. So the challenge here is there's a bazillion different variations that we could work through, millions of different variables. That's the benefit of a fee model. That's also the plague of a fee model because you can customize it to the nth degree if you so choose. What I tried to do is look at the commercial because that was where the indicator of higher call volume was. And we wanted to break up the commercial into multi-tiers. So looking at the data, it seemed like the businesses looked fairly comparable in the 1 to 9 ESU range, and then the 10 to 50, and then the 50 plus. The 50 plus ESUs really stood out as they really are separate from everything else. So the other tiers are somewhat arbitrary, but the 50 plus is definitely that's where things start to really pick up quickly. So with that, we put together a couple of models. One is, what if everyone kind of paid the same? So we did that with a load. Let me first. So we did a commercial tiered model, not super heavily weighted towards commercial, more of a balanced approach, but we also retained a discount. And that would be the first table, table 18. The second table, table 19, we said, well, hey, really the differentiator is the commercial. What if we increase that proportionally a little bit more so that we could continue to provide single family discounts, those kind of things at a little bit lower rate. That's table 19. And I think those are the two options that we have at this point. However, having said that, all the variables can change, and I think there also needs to be some policy discussions, as we brought up tonight, like churches, nonprofits, government agencies, how do we want to handle those kind of things? So with that, I'd be free to address any questions that you have.
Do we charge ourselves the fee?
We do not. I believe in the original order resolutions, we were exempted,
The city
the city.
was exempted.
Anything else, is there anybody else that's in town in the city?
Not that I'm aware of.
Government agency?
No.
Government kind of deal with it.
Counselor Fuller, did you have any questions?
Well, I have a lot of questions, but about these two charts. So if we were looking at chart 19, table 19, if I had a business that was a 50 plus ESU, my police fee would be $33 per month or $66 per bill.
That is correct, yes. It would be the $33 times the ESU number, so 33 times 50.
So that's $40 $131.
That is correct.
So you're saying $33 times 50, if that's what my ESU was?
Correct. An example of that would be Waremart. They're right at the 50 ESU mark, so that would be their bill.
$16.50 a month?
Correct.
Do we want to keep any businesses in town? That seems pretty steep. That gives you a $3,300 bill every 2 months. Ouch.
Where the modeling numbers come from, so for example, the $25. Was it? Is there a model somewhere that we use that amount? Per ESU, or where did that?
So basically, we know the total revenue number that we needed to get to. And we knew the door fronts ESU's number of single resident accounts. So basically tried to, I wish there was a real scientific method to this, but this is mostly trial by trial and backwards math, right?
So, can you, explain again in case somebody's tuning in and didn't catch the explanation last time? But where are we coming up with the number, of the $3,350,900, annual revenue number that you needed to get to? Because I think, and why I'm asking is because before, in our conversations, the fee has been to pay for X number of police officers. Is that this, per year, right? So the fee paid for, was it 5 police officers per year? So am I correct, based on that historical practice of the fee and what the fee pays for, that next fiscal year, 26-27, that 5 police officers are going to cost the city $3,350,900?
No. So this is, we're at the point where we're trying to get the police back up to full staffing. So this model is based off of the police department continuing to take their fair share of the general fund revenues. So they're still taking between 70 and 75% of all the property taxes, all franchise fees, that kind of stuff. We have a hole that we've been trying to deal with. The last several years, we've been moving ARPA funds from the ARPA fund to the general fund to offset the declines in the police department to try to get them back to fully staffed. So that $3.3 million number, that includes the $1.2 million that we're currently collecting in police fee. So this is the assumption that whatever we do, we're going to replace that existing fee with either a new fee, or if you so choose, an operating levy, or whatever the funding mechanism is. So that's 1.2 million of that. In this fiscal year, we also started off with a $2 million budget deficit. So about 1.7 of that is related to the police department. So the 1.7 plus the 1.2 gets us to almost $3 million. There is a little bit of additional loss that we're going to be experiencing due to some declining revenues, specifically liquor tax, revenue sharing. Over the last 2 years, we've seen that drop by about almost 200,000. So that's kind of real rough how we get to that $3.3 million number.
And it's shocking to me that with 122 DUIs, we have a shortfall in the liquor tax.
As it does me.
Well, and Madam Chair, the goal when, even before I got here or you got here, was to fund those 5 positions. The willingness to do that, though, over the last 2 years, when the budget committee wasn't there to even keep up with the funding for those 5 positions, much less the other 45 positions in the. So this is why we kind of use these charts over the year to show our general fund balance and how we're using it. And that, hey, we're gonna hit a cliff next year, so
Let this year.
we are here.
And I also wanna just make sure I correct in reading these tables as well. Again, I'm still on page 76 of the report. If you evened the cost per unit, is that my understanding on the multifamily, if I'm reading this correctly?
That is correct. For the multifamily, we did eliminate the discount and put it on par with single family. Because the data supported that neither was driving more calls for service than the other.
Question? Anyone? Nodding. Our audience of four, okay. Counselor Kohler, do you have any questions?
I'm just still trying to justify in my mind paying that much every month if I have a business.
I mean, not ideal, but where else are we gonna get it?
I asked this question last meeting of Chief Copeland, and I asked you, so if we were taking a bill to Target for $3,300 every month, if that would change his relationship with the people at Target. And I cannot conceive of a situation where that would not make a difference to that business.
Do you have any other alternative ideas, Counselor Kohler?
I'm not sure that putting that much weight on businesses is going to be something that we can take to the voters, and the voters will say, yeah, okay, no problem, because that will affect everybody in many ways, because if Target's going to have to increase their price to pay that fee, then it's going to cost more at the register, I'm sure. The other thing, the other option we still have is to do the levy, but the levy has its challenges too. So I don't know.
And I just wanna make sure I ask again to make sure I'm still tracking correctly. We can tier, like as you've done on the fee structure. We cannot tier a levy.
That is my understanding, yes.
So Target would pay the same rate.
It's paid on property.
It's paid on property, right? So it's not Target paying that, correct? Or who, like, do you see where, I'm trying to, and the value of the property, not necessarily an ESU, right?
That is correct.
So and the value, so for those multifamily buildings that are coming online, that 2000 and whatever tax rate it's gonna be is figured on, if I recall, there's some messy formula that really figures the value based on 1995 property rates. So just a reminder, when we look at that, it's really not, it's not the value, today's value, it's the value that it was back in 1995, which doesn't get us really where we need to go.
That is correct. There is an index that the county applies to the value that they've given to a property. So I think one of the things with multifamily apartment kind of things, we determine it's about a 50% of the assessed value, or the market value is about 50% less to get to the assessed value currently, because they do take the 1985 value, index it every year for the 3% increase, and then figure out what that ratio is and say, okay, any new property, we don't want to make this at a disadvantage for you to, because you are new. We want it to be reflective of similar properties. So in this case, again, multifamily comes on about 50% of the market value, which is not a big help for us a lot of the time.
So, Mr. Wood, if we use the $1.23 per thousand rate on a Waremart, about what would they pay with the levy versus the model that we looked at, the tiered model we were looking at?
Sure. I don't think I have that one right in front of me.
I, Council Kohler and Madam Chair, I give an example, and I don't want to pick on Target, but, I pulled up their, tax bill, which you can access on the county's, geographic information system. And their taxes at $2.08 for Kaiser was, and the assessed value, taxable value, was, they paid $25,678 for the services of the city of Kaiser. At $2.08, so adding $1.23 to that is gonna a little bit over half of that. So probably about $40,000 that would increase that bill from $25,000 to $40,000 a year.
You said roughly $40,000 a year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I did some math somewhere about at 131. Oh, I hate this new update on my phone.
It's pretty close to what the ESU value we had, the $25.
It's 39,300, so it's less expensive to do the fee by $1,000. Ish. $1,000-ish.
But my estimate was pretty close to yours.
Yeah. Counselor Fuller?
Yeah, so if it's gonna cost them the same amount of money, what will that cost our residents? I mean, so it's the mom and pop shop is not gonna get taxed near that much, but if I had a single family home, one ESU, based on the figures you're using, you're looking at what, $400 or $500 or something?
Councilor Kohler, this is Kim. So depending on which model you went with, yeah, a single family residence under the proposed fee models would be, $150 to $200 range. Based off of a $250,000 assessed value house, it would be closer to 325, I believe, 360. So under an operating levy, a single family residence would potentially pay more than under the fee structure that we're currently proposing. But having said that, we could rework the numbers and do something different. We could add more variables.
The fact
But-
is.
But that's back, that says why your levy shows $4 million, over $4 million a year, and then your tiered model shows 3,350.
Correct. With the levy, we would be locking in for a 5-year period. So we want to make sure that the levy was sufficient to cover all 5 years. Under the fee schedule, you could adjust it every year. And in the examples we're presenting, there's actually a year that we would lower the fee.
And you have a projected, somewhere you have, I gotta get my glasses.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, you have a projected decrease. In 28, 29, but the reality is, we could have it. There's more flexibility in
Correct.
adjusting it for. Whatever are projected. If we need to go down, we can go down, like you have it projected here and a decrease.
That is correct.
And we can't do that with the levy.
The other thing we could do with the fee, if you wanted to have a level rate structure, we could go back and rework it so the numbers would be, a relatively same increase every year for all 5 years as well. I mean, that's an opportunity, but we typically don't ask for money that we don't need, unless we have to.
You typically what,
We don't ask for money we don't need unless we have to.
that's.
So no doubt that if we had a flat fee and did it with the levy, the reason that you're doing the 123 is that you figure that would cover all 5 years based on normal increases. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And to add to that, basically, we would be collecting a little bit more than we need in the first and second year. Probably breaking even in the third year, and then using the savings from first and second year to pay for year 4 and 5. So in year 5, there's, probably be a need for an adjustment. Again,
We're doing the math on a target size that we've already done. Under the first year of structure. In year 2031, 32, target's gonna be paying $5,700 a month for the services.
That is correct.
Mr. Brown, I have a process question.
Mhm.
Are we required? I just wanna make sure we deliver on what our charge was, so to speak, with this task force. Do we have to come back with a recommendation to council? Or is that what the purpose of the work session was? That we would work together to come up with a recommendation?
my understanding was that the committee was gonna make a recommendation to the council. But I don't feel 100% confident, I should go back to the minutes of why we established that, but.
Is that something that Ms. Visick could look up while we're continuing to have a conversation?
Try.
I would have a few other little. Keep posty noted things. On page 79. Of the report. Section 8 is still titled Staffing Analysis and Recommendations. And I think we talked about in the last meeting. This wasn't really recommendations per se. But it was a wish list, and so I think it's really important that we capture these characterizations and these corrections. Because if somebody is reading this, I want them to have a full understanding that this isn't, because misinformation gets out there. I want to make sure that it's clear this is not a recommendation, but rather a wish list. And so if there's a fancier word than wish list, great, let's use it, but let's capture with what it is.
Chief, would it be fair to say that would be under ideal conditions? That would be our staffing. What's that?
That's fabulous.
Is that better?
That sounds better.
I mean,
Thank you.
and that's done, talking about what the workload is and
Exactly, is it Is there anything in there that details of that coming from staff, was that coming from PD, who's?
That came from the police department. The professionals.
Oh. So on page 8 of the report, a lot of these look to have, fees lumped together, so all fees lumped together. And I think if we wanna compare apples and oranges, we should break out what those. So for example, the city of Albany has a monthly fee of $14.82. And that's to cover fire, police, parks, library, and court. I'm not sure it's fair to compare the city of Kaiser to Albany. Because we don't pay a fire fee, right? That's a separate, we have a district, not a department. So I'd like to make sure that this monthly fee is specific to the police fees that are listed for each of these cities. I think that will be a good capture.
Good call. Good call. Madam Chair, what page was that on?
That was on page 8. And it's the table,
Yes,
got it?
yes, thank you. Appreciate that.
And when I look at this, for example, like Turner has a $3 public safety. Can we clarify if that is just police versus police and fire? I mean, we're using different verbiage, it feels like a little bit.
Yeah,
So. The,
Yes, yeah, the answer.
the fire district is, I mean, the fee on levy, the levy.
It is on the
99
99 cents.
It's 99 cents per thousand, is that right? So we're asking for more than what. Why you're talking about this? There's no-
What is, and that 99 cents is on top of their tax rate of what?
Yeah, it was one of those nights.
I believe their tax rate is almost equal to ours, if not a little more. Let me check real quick.
My understanding is that the fire district actually gets more money than we do for the city. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Wowzers.
I have my tax bill, we can back into it.
I'll look at the right place.
What is the total fee that the fire district collects? Because they have a couple different levies, right?
Yeah, thanks, Councilor Clore. Mr. Wood's looking that up right now. I can just should give you an anonymous home in my subdivision that may or may not be mine.
Okay, the Kaiser Fire District, they're all,
Yeah.
yeah, right. Their all-in rate is 2.48 compared to our 2.0838.
And then is that 99 cent levy on top of that?
And that's included in that,
So they actually have a lower tax rate.
correct.
Would you say Kyrie,
2.48.
well, the. Actually,
Oh, ours is 2.08.
They were at $1.39. Is that fast math?
That is correct. Pretty
good.
Good job.
Seven. Are there any other questions? Before we move to discussion?
Yes, and that is the end of the stuff you asked us to bring back from the last meeting. I believe we've covered most. I think I've gotten individual answers to persons asked also. And I appreciate, I know that all of you went through this because Councilor Cross, or Chair Cross asked me for her copy on Thursday. Yeah.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry.
You're right, you are a star. You're a star too.
So,
And then I got questions from Councilor Duran and Councilor Bowler as follow-up, so I appreciate you all reading through it, and your time was not in vain.
Well, you did
um,
good. Staff.
one other thing,
At least-
one other thing I ran across, is that our traffic stops, that our judge and clerk are not being supported by the fines from our citations written. And so the funds for the judge and the clerk, part of that is just coming out of our general fund. Should we somehow be writing enough citations to support those?
Counselor Fuller, this is Tim. We did have a significant uptick in number of citations written this year. I am happy to say that we are receiving more in court revenues, both the current collections and then from our collection agency, to cover the municipal court costs, all the costs there. Right now, I think we have a profit projected of about $60,000 through municipal court.
And so I had given Councilor Kohler that answer earlier that, which was probably based on last year's data, so. Thank you to Mr. Wood for that update.
That would be correct. Previous years, we were a little light on the citations, but that's kind of the nature of the beast when we don't have a traffic team.
Thank you.
I have another. Miss Hook, did I need that, enter into record the letter that was sent in support of the monthly fee?
It's up to you how you want to handle that. We don't have citizen input on our agenda, but you're welcome to.
Okay, I'd like to enter this into the record.
Okay.
Thank you. And it's a letter from the Greater Northeast Kaiser Neighborhood Association in support of the monthly police fee and the relevant increases. So thank you. Okay, no other questions? Let's discuss. Counselor Fuller?
So one of the questions that I have, whichever way we do this, do we feel like that we need to send this out to our voters for them to approve?
Can we back that up a little bit and decide which which funding model that we would like to recommend to the council?
Well, it's interesting if you look at there are a couple different things. If we look at the levy, it really isn't a lot of difference, just dollars and cents wise, to what the monthly fee is. Is a little bit different, but not a lot. Is that true, Mr. Wood?
Well, it really depends on which structure you go with as far as the fee goes and which class of residence commercial that you're looking at. Like I've indicated before, with some of the folks who are on the discount rate for the fee structure currently, and they will be paying significantly more under the operating levy.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Counselor Fuller?
Councilman Starr, that does partially, I'd still, I look at the amount of money that we're trying to raise, and I look at the different options we have, and what can we help? How would you explain that to a voter that says, how much you want me to approve? Now, I'm very confident that the voters will look at the services that our police department do for us and will support however we want to do it. But how can we look at all this and say, well, yeah, this is why I recommend this, if there's really not a lot of difference dollars and cents wise for the average person. Some of the businesses will pay a little more. Some of the residents will pay a little less, and some of the residents will pay a little more because of the discount. We don't really have a way to. Do we have a way to do a discount still for families that are really in need? I guess is a question too.
Not with the levy, correct? There's no.
That is correct.
And that's why I lean towards, I'll just put it out there, I lean towards the monthly fee model. We have the ability to adjust the rate from year to year, based on our modeling. And whatever our carryover or ending fund balance is, we can adjust that. And number two, we have the ability to do the discount program, for families who need it. We can't do that with a levy. So I personally am in favor of recommending that when we go to work session, that we bring forward the monthly fee structures, and we look at that, whether it's using the rates that are in our tables and the models, or we have a different discussion about, or have a discussion about different amounts. But for me personally, I think that we need to bring the fee forward recommendation. It gives us more flexibility. And I'm not talking like flexibility to make it higher. I just want to be abundantly clear. The flexibility is to decrease it if we need to.
Right, the flexibility is a key
If we
point.
can. Yeah, ability, not need, but if we can.
The flexibility is a lot easier to explain to people. The other part of that is that you wouldn't have to go back every 5 years and have the voters vote on it to continue the same fee or to change it.
I'm kind of feel the same way. I just have another question about this. We've got the table 18 and the table 19, two tiered models. And it just looks to me, I don't know if you look at this, but it looks to me like the second tier model is putting a little bit more on the businesses and allowing the assets on the households, and
That is correct, yeah. And that was pretty much arbitrary, just differentiating a little heavier.
adjusting the
Correct.
things to give a discount here and try to people that are using more. And it's small amount, bigger. It's even with 50 ASUs, it's toxic. First, is there a number, is there a percentage that you increase? Or is that for years, the consecutive years? Is it, if those are going up, is there a percentage?
Sure. Yeah, at the very right end of the table of the rate increase, those are the percentages that the whole thing is going up. Correct, yeah.
So why did what's the 28, 29, 5% down? Is because
Sure.
Just right.
It's a combination of things. In that year, we don't have a PERS increase. And also the estimated vehicle purchases were lower. So that combination, we didn't have a big spike and we had a lower increase in the vehicles.
would it be easier to. I'm sure people would love to have a decrease, but it also. You drop their costs and they get used to it and it's going back up. So is there an easier way to just smooth things out?
Absolutely, we can go back and smooth it out over the years.
That's actually, because it goes. Like 115% increase, 20%, -5, back up to 30, so that's like a 35%.
If we see a little bit more smoothed out and people going, well, I can plan for that.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then it
I
goes
have a
back
little bit of
down
money and, oh, now I can't afford it.
to 2%, so now you're dropping back down 33.
Right.
Swing wise, right?
That would definitely make a lot of sense to present that model as well.
If that would be good, I can just see people going. I mean, I've had my employees swear they got more money one year because of something and came back and said, well, why didn't I make more money? Because you got paid for paying that year. And it took me, 3 hours to go to figure out how to explain it to them.
I guess I have another question, Chief Copeland, what do you feel most comfortable with?
Thank you, Councilor Kohler, for that. Whatever you decide. How about that? No,
Wrong answer.
that is a great question. I mean, I could answer personally as a taxpayer, but as a police,
Well,
I just.
let's do that first then. Let's go personally as a taxpayer and then as the head of our department.
I'm gonna look at my city manager and see if that's a little question that I should answer.
I think it's important to focus on how we can have the best supported and best funded department that we can. That ensures consistent safety and a thriving, resilient community that has a stable police department and police force is what we need to be most focused on.
Yes, and I agree. I think the chief's number one hat that he wears at this table is as the chief of 51 officers or police department of 51 people. And trying to maintain, and that's what a lot of this report focuses on. We have a safe community, and what we want to do is maintain it. Maintain the safe community, and without seeing a degradation that nobody wants.
One thing I do have to put you guys, I was at breakfast yesterday at a local restaurant, and I actually heard someone talking about this report. And you could not believe how much crime is listed in this report because they don't see that.
Yeah.
And they didn't, I don't know if I was there, and that's why they were talking about it, but I could hear them talking about this. Man, I just couldn't believe how much was listed. But you just kind of think about that, guys. So it feels safe, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on you don't realize.
Yeah, and something new that we'll be pushing out is with our new website, we have the ability to self-subscribe to newsletters. And so we're putting my weekly update out in the newsletter, or I should say, putting it out in the newsletter each week. So if people want to see what's going on in the city, and that includes our police activity each week, they can sign up to receive that or that newsletter each week.
And just, you know, Counselor Drain, you brought up that, people were reading the report and acknowledging what was in it. I think that underscores, I know that staff had put in hours, Mr. Brown and Mr. Wood, into, putting this report together. Chief, your, team and your staff have spent countless hours as well, putting this information together and collating and gathering the data. And I think the fact that people are talking about what is in this report that isn't known, right? People don't realize, is a testament to the work that was put into putting all of this together. And it's a testament to the professionalism of our Kaiser Police Department for keeping our city safe and robust and resilient, and not and people not realizing what's going on. I think that is to be commended, that you guys are handling it with the highest level of all of the things with the highest level of professionalism and respect for people and maintaining their dignity. So thank you for that. Please pass that on to your.
Madam Chair, the other thing I had on my very last slide for next steps is at what point does the committee recommend, it could be the council as a whole or the committee recommend that we take this report in data and go out into the community and tell the story.
Yes.
So
That's
and first of all, I guess that really comes down to this committee being comfortable with what's report in the corrections that you've asked for tonight. And of course, any additional things, but that can be a direction of the committee also. Let's go out and tell the story.
I say tell the story to anyone who will listen, because we have, and I will use my I voice. I think that we have a department that does an outstanding job in all the areas. Whether, you know, it's our support staff in managing the bazillion pages and bazillion records and all the things, to our officers that are on the street, to our detectives that are investigating the crimes. I think our community and anyone who will listen deserves to know everything that this department does. With, you know, that they can know, right? But I think that our community needs to know that, because they don't know that very often do we, as a city government, do a very good job of opening up the hood and start peeling the layers back and sharing what it is that is done on a day-to-day basis. And so I vote as one of 3 on the task force that tell the story. Let people look under the hood of what's going on, and the value that our residents are getting for the professionalism and the level of expertise that we have in this department. That's my vote. Not that we're voting, but that's what I say.
And Councilor Starr,
That's
the
my
other
personal
thing,
I voice. Yes,
I
Councilor
think
Clark?
the other thing too is we need to make sure that we let the police department know that we as a council really want to support them and want to help them. So we appreciate what they do. Even when I ask tough questions.
Even when you ask questions that you know, what's that, even when I've already
Right.
answered, but I need to get this clarified. One of my biggest concerns, is this is the police being task force, and we talked about what that includes and these reports or everything. Looking ahead to the budget and things like that, is there other things we're gonna need to be concerned about in the coming months that this is gonna, you know, align with in the same issues.
It's gonna be a tough year. I'll be honest, we're gonna have to have some discussions about how much of our capital plans do we want to try to accomplish over the year. We are gonna be constrained in our water fund. So we're not gonna be able to do the normal amount of, water line main replacement projects. We're not gonna be, we were, a little confined in our street fund, but I think that'll be cleaned up now that we have some money coming back from ODOT. So that's gonna give us a little breather there. That will also fund our sidewalk gap program. The stormwater fund, we probably are gonna be looking at issuing some debt to pay for a project there. We are behind as far as the rates there, just because we haven't done rate increases for the last 5 years. Because we didn't know we needed to until we did. So we have a fairly major project that we're gonna have to accomplish through a debt offering most likely. So those are the areas. Parks is also gonna be somewhat limited as well. The rate increase we were hoping for last year was reduced quite a bit. I think we had 50% decrease in what we had asked for. So we're gonna have to scale back. I think we have about 250,000 for capital and about 500,000 on our capital list. So we'll have to prioritize some things. Unfortunately, we used to say that our general fund was the only constrained fund. Now we have quite a few. The majority of that operating there, to the point where we've cinched our belts over the last couple of years, and we really got to figure out what kind of projects we want to do going forward. So yeah, there's going to be some hard discussions, which I appreciate. I appreciate everyone asking hard questions and keeping the pressure on, because it keeps us transparent with the community.
Do you have a recommendation, Counselor Dorian?
Do.
Please share.
So we want to share. Yeah, I think going with, the fee structure is what I feel is in the best interest. Whether it's one of these two, something in between, but one, two, I think, like I said, see value that it kind of getting a little more consistency in our increase. So then we can tell people, I think we need to say, this is what we're gonna ask for, and this is what it's gonna be every year, as we see it now, so that we can be there. If we tell them it's gonna be whether it is 5 or 8% increase, or whatever the number comes out to be, to get us to where we think we need to be in 31, 32. I think we can keep that as consistent as possible. I feel that with this being such a large number, we need to be able to cover those things. My advice would be,
Are you open to taking what I will call a hitting the road with our dog and pony show, and taking this out and talking to people and putting this out? I know City Manager Brown asked about that.
yeah, I think we need to have work groups or some kind of a session that really needs to trying to get people in here so we can explain this, so that people really understand, and do that sooner rather than later, to get it on people's mind. I don't think we really have a chance of it. If we just try to run this thing through, you can see for people who might have a hard time to hear what they're about this. We really need as transparent as possible.
Is that, Mr. Brown, does that road dog and pony roadshow?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we can refine a presentation with data in here, and you want to talk to the community about?
I also recall, and I don't know if they still exist anywhere, but we used to have a person that we we made it outfitted the person. And we put all the prices of what it cost, right, to outfit the person. And I think there was a car, but we did the same as well. I see Mr. Wood nodding his head, yes, remembers that. Is that a look of joy? Yay, we get to do this again? Or like, oh,
I think it's a great idea. I'm just seeing the dollar signs with the cars.
well,
Big number.
it's a plastic.
It is a big
car,
number.
right? But, you know, one of those, whatever, corrugated plastic type cars, and it has the, you know, all the things that go in it, and the cost of what it is, and I think the more that we can make this real, right, rather than just stuff in a packet, which I think is great and it's pretty, but when I think if we can make this real life, I think that will help bring it to life and bring to life what our officers do day in and day out. So sign me up. Happy to help. Let's go.
So my understanding then, do we have consensus that we think we need to use the fee structure and we need to put together a dog and pony show and recommend that to the council?
Yes, and I believe that is correct. Thank you for that summary, Councilor Fuller. That is accurate. And I think we were supposed to have a work session on the fee on this information tonight, but we needed this extra meeting. So I envision that we'll be having a work session soon.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, great. Anything else? Boy, Coda's gonna earn her keep.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Is there anything else for the good of this project and this task force and before we wrap it up? Again, thank you, Mr. Brown, Mr. Wood, Chief. Please thank your teams appropriately. I appreciate all the time and the tolerance of our incessant questions and data requests. Councilor Fuller, Councilor Turian, thank you both very much for the time that you put into this as well, reading report after report and asking those questions and just plugging away at this until we got to this point. So I'm really proud of the work that our staff and the respective teams did, and I'm really proud of the work that we did as a task force. So thank you very much for your participation and your support. And with that, it is 7:38 and we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Okay.